Your cold email campaign is about to take a huge hit in 2025, and you might not even be prepared. Over the next 60 days, there's a very high chance that cold email is going to go through a new set of changes that, believe it or not, is going to make cold email nearly impossible, unless you prepare in advance and know how to adapt. And for those who don't know me, my name is Nick Constantinidis. I'm one of the co-founders here at BuzzLead. We're a B2B lead generation agency that has generated our clients north of $7 million in the past 2 years through cold email alone. And in this video, I'm going to be showing you the major changes that Google and Microsoft make every single year. And I'm going to give you my predictions for 2025. And I'm going to show you how you could take advantage of this so you could scale your business with cold email. All right, so what exactly happened in 2023 and 2024 that has made cold email marketing seemingly more difficult? Well, some of y'all may have heard of the cold email deliverability crisis. And all that is essentially more people being involved in the cold email marketing space. So there's more eyeballs and more attention in the space. And Google and Microsoft have simply made spam policy updates this year, last year, the year before, just like they do every single year, that tries to prevent cold email marketers from soliciting people who don't want their emails. So what exactly were these big changes? I'll walk you through those right now. But essentially, what Google and Microsoft are trying to do is they're trying to make it harder, and they're trying to increase the barrier to entry so that random spammers aren't just going out and soliciting their customers. Above all else, they want to make sure that their customers, Google and Outlook users, are happy. And there's been a lot of complaints from these users that they're getting way too many spam complaints. And the reason for that is that there's new platforms like SmartLead, Instantly, Lemlist, all these new providers that maybe came around a couple of years ago, but they gained a lot of popularity in the space. It's become very easy for anybody, your average Joe, to just look up an online course, set up a cold email infrastructure, and just start, mass emailing a bunch of individuals. So with that said, they've cracked down, and over the past couple of years, they've gotten stricter and stricter, and they've enforced new spam policies, basically making it harder for people to land in the inbox. So to summarize what those spam policies are, it's essentially stricter spam filter policies. So the email service providers are going out and they're making it harder for people to land in the inbox. So what are they doing? They're monitoring the actual emails that are going out, the copywriting within the emails, and they're trying to identify spam trigger words such as free or sale, or just things that look spammy and they don't look like a personalized, humanized email. They're also looking for repetitive patterns. So if they could see that somebody has a bunch of different inboxes or email accounts and they're all associated with the same domains or similar domains, and they're sending the same email thousands and thousands of times, it's probably pretty obvious that that person is spam marketing somebody. And so they're going to all of a sudden throttle that person's domain and the inboxes associated with it. And they're going to make sure that their customers, Outlook and Google users, are not receiving emails from this person because they're clearly a spammer. So with that said, what you want to do is you want to do everything that you can to make sure that you look like you're sending humanized emails. You want to make sure that you're personalizing your emails and that you're making each email unique to the people that you're reaching out to. What else have they enforced? Enhanced unsubscribe mechanisms. So the email service providers have made it very, very, very easy for their customers to mark emails as spam. And what that means is when somebody receives a cold email from you, Google and Outlook, or Google and Microsoft, they're going to auto suggest to their customers to mark an email as spam if they don't recognize who the person is that's sending that physical email. So I don't know if you've noticed, but if you check your email inbox and you notice that you get an email from somebody you've never heard of, the first thing that you're going to see is spam ? And it's going to make it very easy for you to click that button, mark them as spam. So with that said, you need to keep that in mind when you're putting together your email campaigns and your cold email marketing, that if your message is not relevant, or if the person that you're reaching out to is not an actual ideal customer for your business, and the offer that you're trying to pitch them is not matching up with who they are and how it could help them, they're clearly going to go and market as spam because Google and Microsoft are making it very easy to do that. So that brings me into numbers 3 and number 4 in terms of the spam policy updates that these ESPs are providing. Another one is going to be the sending volume limitations. So, when I first got started with cold email marketing, I would purchase 10 domains and I would purchase 20 inboxes, and I would be able to send thousands of emails on a daily basis. And I wouldn't have any issues because some of these other policies weren't in place. That's not the case anymore. Now with all these other policies, the longevity of your domains and your cold email sending accounts has shrunken dramatically. And while you used to be able to use those accounts for 12 months without any issues, that has really shrunk to 3 to 6 months. And that's if you're actually sending good emails and you have a really good lead list and you're doing all the things that I'm trying to tell you that you need to be doing to avoid getting marked as spam. Number 4 is the increased monitoring of sender reputation. And again, this kind of ties together with all that I was saying, but the email service providers, Microsoft, Google, they know the ins and outs of what's going on in the background and who's sending emails and whatnot. So you need to do everything you can to make sure that you look like a human and not an actual spammer. So there's different things that you could be doing, but essentially one big thing is that a lot of people who are setting up their email accounts, they're buying domains, they're setting up email accounts that are specifically for cold email marketing. But as soon as they start, they have those accounts warmed up, they start sending mass volume, they start sending their emails from a shared IP. And what I mean by that is they're basically on a private network that is shared with a public pool of any other cold email marketer that purchased their domains from the same location. You're sharing the same IP, and that IP has a reputation that is around it. So anybody who is sending emails from that shared IP address is going to be affected by the bad email marketers that are in there. And so there's different practices that you could put into place, and I'll mention those here in a second. But essentially, you want to make sure that you're not being affected by all these other people who are on a bad IP. And you want to make sure that you are doing everything you can to get marked as spam as little as possible, because the more spam complaints you get, the worse your IP reputation and your sender reputation is. The worse it is, the less times you're actually going to land in the inbox. So how has this affected cold email as a whole? It's a whole bunch of noise and nuances that are essentially making the learning curve for cold email 5 times harder than it used to be. And aside from that, with all these different changes and the needs for, extra domains and inboxes and masking your IP and doing all these different technical things in the background, your costs have essentially 3 to 4 times what they used to be. So all that to say, I wanted to summarize this before going into my recommendations for what you could do in 2025. But here are 3 steps that you 100% need to take in order to succeed with cold email in 2025. Starting with number 1, the cold email infrastructure setup. And one of the biggest things that I recommend is you always want to purchase more domains and more inboxes than you think you need. And the reason for that is it's not a matter of if your domains and inboxes are going to burn and all of your emails are going to go to spam. It's a matter of when that happens. And so a good rule of practice that we're doing here at BuzzLead is we're purchasing 1.5 to 2 times as many domains and inboxes as we typically need. And the reason for that is we might see that our campaigns are performing really well on month 1 and month 2, but then all of a sudden month 3, we see a big hit, our response rates go plummeting, and we're just not having nearly as much success with our cold email campaigns. The only reason that's happening is because Microsoft and Google have throttled your domains. So by having extra domains and inboxes on the back end that you're not actively using, you just keep them warmed up at all times. You could simply plug those in and boom, you're right back to really good deliverability. So I couldn't recommend anything more than that, but make sure that you have extra domains and inboxes warming up at all times. That way, in case your main infrastructure goes down, you could swap in the new ones and not have any sort of lag time that you typically would. Because a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll set up their main accounts, they run those in a campaign, all of a sudden their results go to shit, then they've got to purchase new accounts, warm them up for 2 weeks, and you go through like a 2 to 4 week lag time. You want to avoid that. And one other thing that I'll mention is that aged domains that you didn't just purchase a month ago, but domains that you've had for a long time, and inboxes that you've kept warming up without actually sending real emails, are always going to perform way, way better than new, fresh accounts. And so that ties together with what I was saying. If you purchase extra domains and inboxes, and you have some on the back end that are resting and warming up, those become aged domains. And once you plug them in, I guarantee you're probably going to get 2x the replies from your original infrastructure that you started with. So anyway, I'm linking right over here an actual cold email deliverability guide and understanding the email service providers, because here with BuzzLead, we manage 30 plus clients. We have a different infrastructure setup based off of who our client is actually targeting. And what I mean by that is if I'm reaching out to local service businesses, I'm not going to complicate my setup. I'm just going to set up a whole bunch of Google accounts because I know most of them live on Google, and we'll call it a day. If I'm reaching out to enterprise organizations, companies like Lululemon or Nike.com, they're going to have spam firewalls in place, and you need to have a different infrastructure in place to make sure that you're landing in that inbox. I outline it all right over here. Make sure to check that out. Number 2, qualifying your lead lists before sending emails. You used to be able to go on ZoomInfo, Apollo, or Sales Navigator, just type in a couple of industry filters, employee count, revenue, location, export that list, plug it in your campaigns, and all of a sudden start ripping meetings. I'm sorry to tell you, but that is not the case anymore. And going back to where I was saying that email service providers make it easier than ever to mark you as spam, you need to be taking all the effort in the world to make sure that the list that you're reaching out to is actually relevant people. They're ideal customers that could really benefit from your product or solution. If they're not, and you're sending a lot of emails that are unrelevant, and all of a sudden Outlook or Google is recommending to them to mark you as spam, they're gonna do it. And that happens over and over and over again. And then all of a sudden you start seeing your reply rates plummet. That's just how it goes. So what I would recommend in the way that I build my lead lists out is I always start with the companies that I'm reaching out to first. I build a list of companies that are a good target list of companies. And I use a tool called clay.com. And it's cool because they've got a feature called Claygent where it actually integrates ChatGPT. And if you don't know how to code like me, I don't know how to code, you could simply just plug in a different prompt. And what you could do is you could plug in your business's offer or your service, and you could say, hey, this is what my business does and who we specialize in. Can you analyze this list of companies and let me know if they're a good fit for my offer or not? Just tell me yes or tell me no. And Claygent will actually analyze your entire company list and it'll tell you, yes, they're a good fit. No, they're not a good list. You could refine your prompt and make it as extensive as you want or simplify it as much as you want. But what this is going to do is it's going to give you a shortcut so you don't have to manually verify the accuracy of companies you're reaching out to. And any companies that Claygent tells you no, they're not a good fit, remove them from your list. Like, you don't want to be reaching out to them. They're going to mark you as spam. Once they're removed from your list and you have a laser targeted list of companies, then you go out and find the contacts of those companies. You do that and all of a sudden you've got a fresh email infrastructure set up with new domains, new inboxes. Then all of a sudden you have a very targeted lead list and you're just minimizing the chances of people marking you as spam. Because maybe they don't have a need for your service right now, but if you all of a sudden send them a good relevant message, they're going to keep that in mind and they're not going to mark you as spam because it's relevant. I think it's the most important thing of all of lead gen, making sure that you're reaching out to the right people with the right message, which leads me into step 3, which is just use shorter sequences, keep them 2 or 3 steps maximum. When I first started with cold email, 3-4 years ago, I was sending 5, 6, 7 consecutive emails and just basically trying to get people to tell me yes or no. That was okay back then, but now that email service providers are making it easier to mark people as spam, you can't do that. You're just gonna piss off the wrong people. And then if you're not following step 2 and reaching out to a very targeted lead list, then you're literally just throwing everything in the drain and you're just asking Microsoft and Google to throttle your domains and email accounts. So I always suggest keeping your email sequences 2 to 3 steps max. And to even back up what I'm saying, all my claims here, we send over 300,000 emails every single month across all of our clients here. And of those emails, we find that 80% of the positive responses that we're getting from prospects come in emails 1 and email 2. We're also finding that 80% of the spam reports and spam complaints that we get from prospects come on emails 3 and 4. So what does that tell you? Write shorter sequences. People aren't nearly as prone to mark you as spam on the first and second email. And then if you combine that with a laser targeted lead list, if you're giving them a great pitch, you have a good offer, everything is relevant about the message, and you're only reaching out to them twice, they're not going to mark you as spam. It's once you start sending that 3rd, 4th, 5th email where you're starting to bug these people. They don't want to open up your email and then, exit out of it. And then if Microsoft and Google are telling you to mark it as spam, they're going to do it. So all that to say, make sure that you're keeping your sequences shorter. Make sure that you're building targeted lead list. Make sure that you're purchasing extra domains, extra email accounts. And if you do all those things, odds are you're probably going to be great. But one thing that I do want to mention is you could have these measures into place But that doesn't mean that you know how to write persuasive copy, and the offer or the messaging that you're sending these prospects might not be where it needs to be. And if that's you and you're trying to figure out how to craft a solid offer and write persuasive copy, then I've actually got the perfect video for you. Just stick around for it here and you can check out our copywriting section. And then outside of that, hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you learned a couple of things. Make sure to follow these practices. I guarantee that you will have success with cold email in 2025. And if it's too much for you to handle, you don't want to do it yourself, then check the description below, book a call with us. We'll have a conversation, see if we can help you out. If so, great. If not, we'll at least give you some guidance. And outside of that, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks, guys.